About a year ago, I did a video with this KTM 250 SXF Factory Edition stacked up against a Sur Ron X. The point of the video was to see which bike I could go around a 1 mile track fastest on, and long story short, the KTM here blew the Sur Ron out of the water in terms of lap times. Many of you suggested that if I were on a faster Sur Ron X with better suspension, that I'd likely beat the KTM, and so that's what I'm back here trying to do today. I've got the Sur Ron XX here. This is a faster version of the Sur Ron X. It's got Fox suspension front and rear, as well as some extra goodies on it that really improve the ride and should make it more competitive against the KTM. I'm gonna do the comparison the same way I did it last year. I'm gonna use a LitPro GPS tracking device that I'll wear on my helmet. That'll determine what my lap times are, and I will start out on the KTM and lay down a fast lap on that bike, see what my fast lap is, and then I'll go back out on the Sur Ron XX and see if I can beat that lap time. Another thing that you guys pointed out is that I could be getting tired after riding the KTM, and that was lowering my lap times on the Sur Ron X. So what I'm gonna do this time is not only ride the Sur Ron XX immediately after the KTM, but I'm gonna come back on a second day and ride the Sur Ron XX on its own, see if my lap times increase that way. So I'll gear up, we'll go lay down some laps on the KTM and see what we come up with. All right, ladies and gentlemen, just finished up a few laps on the KTM 250 here. My fastest lap time is 3 minutes and 56 seconds, says the LitPro GPS tracking device. So that is the number I'm going to go off of. Not that fast. It's actually, I think, 8 seconds slower than I did last year. And the reason for that is this track is riding a lot rougher than it was last year. I think a lot of people have been through here. It's super whooped out, lots of roots and 90-degree corners and that type of thing. So it is a challenging track to say the least. So should be interesting to see how the Sur Ron stacks up. That is going to be the benchmark time to beat, is 3 minutes and 56 seconds. So I'm gonna hop on the Sur Ron now. We'll lay down some laps. I'll go back again tomorrow, lay down some more laps, and see if I can beat that 3 minute and 56 second time. See how we do. All right, Sur Ron. So weird hopping off this thing after riding the KTM. So I definitely feel faster in some areas on this thing than I do the KTM, specifically these tight corners right here. It's a lot less bike to move around, but then the whoops, like that, tough on this bike. So this bike is the XX from Unicycle. It's a bit faster. It's a bit faster than a stock Sur Ron. The controller puts out twice the amps. I've got some other mods to it. I've got the XC Gear Hammerhead 360 stem. I've got Fox suspension front and rear. Got an 18-inch rear wheel and a 21-inch front wheel from Woody's Wheel Works with Dunlop 33 tires on them. Shimano brake pads and front rotor. Flow foot pegs. And the Pro Taper 3-inch rise handlebars. I definitely feel faster on this bike. A lot faster than the Sur Ron X. I can get up to speed out of these corners way quicker. It's not so imperative that I keep my momentum, which makes me feel faster. I'm really curious to see what the time turns out to be on this bike. So lap times. My fastest lap on the Sur Ron XX today was 4 minutes and 7 seconds, and that is 11 seconds slower than my fastest lap time on the KTM. The Sur Ron XX feels a lot faster in those really tight corners. That's where I feel like I'm making up time on the KTM. The KTM makes up time pretty much everywhere else on this bike because this stuff is really rough. It's whooped out, and the KTM can just handle it. You can kind of bulldog right through that stuff a lot better than you can on this bike. I'm not saying that it's easy. It's a super difficult track to ride on both bikes, but the KTM definitely beats the Sur Ron XX in this scenario. So as I mentioned before, I am going to come back tomorrow morning when I'm fresh, take another stab at this and see if I can beat that 4 minute and 7 second lap time. Jump cut. All right, day 2 with the Sur Ron XX. Before I tell you anything about lap times from yesterday and today, I just want to say this bike is not a stock Sur Ron X. I know I mentioned it before, but just want to reiterate here in the conclusion if you did not catch it or you don't know what bike this is a Sur Ron XX. It was a limited edition made by Lunicycle. The controller is putting out 150 amps instead of the stock 80 amps on a Sur Ron X. So that alone makes this bike a fair amount quicker than a stock Sur Ron X. My fastest lap yesterday was 4 minutes and 7 seconds. And I came back today to try to beat that. My fastest lap time today is also 4 minutes and 7 seconds. Even with a faster Sur Ron and better suspension, I still can't beat that KTM. 11 seconds is pretty far off the pace. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think of that in a race scenario, you are going to be very far behind the leader if every mile you are 11 seconds off that lead time. But there is a caveat there, and that is last time I did this test with the Sur Ron X and the KTM 250, I was 15 seconds a lap slower on the Sur Ron than the KTM. So I was able to shave 4 seconds off of the difference between the two bikes, which I think is a pretty big deal. Regardless of all of that, the bike feels really good. I mean, it's super fun to ride this stuff. It's really rough, but both bikes are a blast to ride in these conditions. I think if I had to pick one that I was just going to ride, it would still be the KTM. It's not just because it's faster, it just soaks everything up in these types of environments. But yeah, we're getting closer, and that's pretty cool. So thank you guys for the suggestions, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.